Hello, welcome to The Vault. I'm Ron Cronin, and I'd like to help you today in this session with learning how to handle objections. And the first thing that you want to remember when handling objections is that an objection is the question in the mind of the customer that remains unanswered. That's the definition. A question in the mind of the customer that remains unanswered. Now, I was always thinking, why, if they have a question, don't they just ask me the question? Why do they have to do it in the form of an objection? And the truth is that most people don't want to be vulnerable to a salesperson. And if they ask their questions, you might see their motivation. You might, see right through them, and they don't want you to know yet. They want to keep their cards close. So instead, they object. An example is if their objection is, Ron, I have a friend in the business. Well, let's look at that objection. Mike says it's a question that remains unanswered. So if their objection is, I have a friend in the business, what is it that they're trying to ask? Perhaps they're trying to ask, is there any difference between you and my friend? Is there any value to hiring you over my friend? I feel so obligated to my friend, I don't know how I would hire anyone else. These could be the questions that they're trying to ask. So if you look at objections as simply a question, it gives you a chance to get excited about the opportunity to answer. You see, Mike Ferry says, since the objections never really change, just simply learn the answers. Now, some of you have been in the business a long period of time, and some are new and some in between. But what you'll learn from the experienced veterans is that the objections have not changed in decades, right? I have a friend in the business. I'm going to sell it myself. Bring me a buyer and I'll pay you a commission. We're not listing anymore. We're going to take a break. They're the same ones that have been given for decades. Learn the answers. Now, there is a difference between an objection and what we call a condition. Okay, an objection is a question the seller or the customer has, and a condition is a statement of fact that you can do nothing about. It's a statement of fact. For instance, they can't list their home because someone recently had a surgery and can't be moved for several weeks. The new house fell through on the other side. They did not get their financing. See, these are examples of conditions, things that you can't really change, and Mike's advice to you when you discover a condition is to simply move on. Now, when it comes to objection handling, the next thought I wrote down is for you. It's to remember that there's a direct correlation between the amount of objections that you receive and then the strength and the quality of the presentation that you're making. Okay, there's a direct connection between the presentation and how many objections you get. And I'm not just speaking about the listing presentation, but I'm talking about how you present the normal appointment scripts, how you present the pre-qualifying questions. How you present has a lot to do with the number of objections that you receive. So the truth is, if you'd like to reduce the amount of objections you get, where you would really want to focus your time is on the presentation and how you follow the scripts, your ability to follow them. And then you'll reduce the amount of objections that you get drastically. Now, Mike has always taught us that you don't necessarily get objections if you pre-qualify properly and you follow the script. So what I wrote down is that what you end up saying outside of the script often creates the objections. So another way to reduce the amount of objections you receive from customers is to simply follow the script that you're supposed to be using. Because the script itself doesn't typically generate a lot of objections. It's the extra things we add, the extra questions, the extra dialogue. It's you throwing in your opinions and your own personal beliefs that causes the customer to object. Okay? So you won't necessarily have to deal with them if you focus on pre-qualifying and following the script that you're using. Now, one part that I love about objection handling is understanding that it's primarily mind over matter, your ability to handle these objections. Mind over matter. See, we can remove the fears that we have about the objections by simply learning the answers and practicing them daily. right? I know you probably have fears about objections, like I don't know what to say, I'm not going to be able to respond quick enough. You find yourself not knowing how to answer the question or the objection, right? But you can remove all those fears if you would simply learn the answers and then practice them a lot. You see, guys and gals, this is your career, and you're a professional salesperson, and objections are part of the job. How long are you going to let these things stop you? How long have you been stopped by these simple objections that you hear over and over and over every day? It's time to draw a line in the sand and learn the answers. Now, when it comes to handling objections, the instruction is that we don't try to handle the objections during pre-qualifying or during prospecting. See, they happen. It's very common that they come up during your prospecting call or during your pre-qualifying call. But ideally, we want to try to avoid handling them at this point in the transaction, which is early. We want to try to avoid it. So what you'll learn quickly is that you can simply understand that a lot of objections from the seller are there because they're trying to create conversation with you. And what else are they going to talk about? They may ask you, I've got this friend in the business, but they're just trying to create conversation with you, the real estate agent. It doesn't necessarily mean that they need an answer right now or that it's a big concern that they may have. They may just be starting a conversation with you, and the objections are an easy way for them to do it. Okay? Now, the next point that I wrote down is simply for you to learn the answers to the questions, which are the objections. Okay, learn the answers. So what we recommend is that you would take one objection per week, write out 2 or 3 ways to handle it. Now, you can go to MikeFerry.com and download our objection handlers. We have all kinds of them published on the website. You can create your own. You may have heard other people using some strong objection handlers. However you get them isn't important, but take one per week, write out 2 to 3 ways to handle it, and then practice it and role play it until it's committed to memory. Practice and role play until you memorize these objections. See, they're not going to change, and you're probably going to hear them the rest of your career. Now's the time to get these answers committed to memory. It doesn't have to be a complicated process, and the truth is there's probably only, 6 or 7 objections that you're going to hear on a regular basis, and then there's other ones that you hear periodically. But you've got to get those main objections down so that you're actually effective on the phone and can set some more appointments. Now, the good news for you is that you don't have to have a lot of different answers to these objections. You don't have to have a lot of answers. You just need 2 or 3 responses to the most common ones you hear. And then that way you can just, shoot them down as they come up. You're just able to answer them with ease, okay? So learn what the most common ones you hear, 2 to 3 ways to handle it, and practice a lot until you can just fire them off. I should be able to call you at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning from a dead sleep and have you answer, I have a friend in the business. We're going to sell it ourselves. We're going to take it off the market for a while. We need a break. We're going to, there's all the normal things that they say. Okay? All right. Now, there are some rules that you've got to follow, or I should say there are rules that if you follow them, it will help you with your objection handling techniques, okay? So when you're handling an objection, always agree. Always agree. Meaning, you have an agreement word, an approval word. You have a friend in the business? Good for you. You're going to take a break? I understand. You are offering, if I bring a buyer, you'll pay me a commission? Thank you, that's very generous. Agree with the objection. Always smile when handling objections, whether you're in person or whether you're on the phone. Just smile because it puts you in a more relaxed position where you can answer the objection effectively. Always nod your head, smile, nod your head, and never argue. Arguing isn't going to get you anywhere. Contradicting what they say, discounting their objection, those tactics will not work. Always agree, smile, nod your head, and never argue. Okay? So remember not to argue because it basically puts the prospect on defense and it makes it more difficult to get a contract signed. You know, we argue. They'll say, I have a friend in the business, and then your response starts with, yeah, but, hey, I realize you have a friend in the business, but, which negates what you just said, and you're about to correct them or to make them wrong or tell them why that's not going to work. That is going to put the prospect on defense, make it harder to get a contract signed, and they don't want to work with you. And I know that's not your intention. Okay? We have to learn to recognize that at times, as I said earlier, the prospect is simply bringing up that objection to create a conversation with you, right? They'll ask you, well, how long have you been selling homes? And then you're scared. Huh? You know, how many homes did you sell last year? Right? And you don't want to have to answer. They're just starting a conversation. Okay? All right. Couple more thoughts for you on objection handling. We have to remember that objections usually come from someone that wants to work with you, but has a couple of questions. Now listen to that point. They come from somebody that wants to work with you, but they have a couple of questions. Okay? So with that thought, you can get excited about having the opportunity to respond, understanding that they wouldn't be objecting if they weren't considering working with you. So another way to say it is they're objecting because they're thinking about hiring you and they want to see how you answer these questions. All right? So keep that in mind. That should allow you to smile. So instead of when you get an objection at the end of your presentation, you're like, oh, you want to think about it? Right? You can now they say to you, I want to think about it. Well, you can now have a big smile on your face because you have a solid answer. You know what to say at this point and can move them forward and close again. All right? All right, good. Now, just a couple more thoughts on this session. Let's say that from now on, you're going to keep the toughest objections and the answers posted in your prospecting area. Right? Post them on the wall. Identify what do you hear every day when you prospect, what are the answers to them, and post them so that when you receive the objection on the phone, you can simply point and read the answer that you have prepared. Okay? Now, another thought is to have these objections and the answers on 3x5 cards and review and practice them daily. Remember when you were young and you learned how to do math and you had the flashcards, 2 plus 2, and on the back it said 4, and 7 plus 3, and on the back it said 10. Remember? That's how I learned math, okay? But it's also how we can learn objections. So on the front of the 3x5 card, it could say, we have a friend in the business, or we're going to sell it ourselves. And on the back, maybe you jotted down 1, 2, or 3 ways to answer it. So now you can give your flashcards to your spouse, your significant other, a friend, a coworker, your kids, and have them show it to you. How about this one? And then you can look at it and then respond accordingly. And if you don't know, well, they can turn it over and show you. All right? But using flashcards will really help you get these answers so they come out quick, just like when you learn math. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up our session with the rules of objection handling. There are rules, okay? And in fact, there are 6 rules. No, there's more. 6 rules for objection handling. Let's write these down. Number 1, never argue, always agree. Right? Never argue with them, never contradict, never correct them or make them wrong. Always agree with what they say. Second rule is smile and nod your head a lot. You understand. This shows it. Third rule, ask a lot of questions. When you receive objections, learn to ask questions as the way to handle the objection. Fourth rule, listen carefully to the answers. Listen carefully to the answers to the questions that you ask. Oftentimes, the answers will give you everything you need to close for the appointment or close for the signature. The fifth rule is to only answer the objection if necessary. Only answer it if necessary. See, some of the objections, as I said earlier, are simply brought up to create conversation. And you should be able to learn to smile and nod and keep moving forward with your script or with your presentation. And some of them you don't even have to touch. Okay? And then the last rule is keep moving forward with your presentation. Keep moving forward, meaning don't stop. Put your head down, move your feet forward, metaphorically speaking, and keep going to the next question on the script. Keep closing, keep closing, keep closing until you get a yes. Objection handling is not a complicated process. Follow the techniques and the tips that I gave you today, and you'll be better at it soon. Thanks for watching, and thanks for being a part of the Vault.